mainland 98.3 FM, and for X, formerly known as Twitter, it is mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Kunle, like on Jazzy all day, but you know, the Nigerian economy
for any of the team.
To play football, but that's politics. Jᴏɪᴜ, look on the show we had Mr. Oluchi Edufuwa, bank investment. Someone who has been on our show of Lagos State had the governor of Lagos State, they'll start earning as much as 85,000 as at now. State and
those start paying since April.
Yeah. Moto. If you go to Nasarawa, see Gen Z so difficult. Why is it so difficult?
State are not creative because some of the states are not creative. JD, I was in Nasarawa, 50,000 naira as minimum wage because there was a place that we are standing. I say, if this is a civilized country, the tourism, the amount will be generating from tourism in Nasarawa state. In fact, you will be in a place that, if not because of night was coming, we just want to just be seeing nature. You will be praising God. How do you create this kind of?
Have you been to Taraba, Gembu?
Not only
amazing
that, even Ekiti State. If you go Ekiti State,
that's Ikogosi.
In fact, but you know what? Everybody is just waiting for your money. So we just we just decide to stay. So until when governors are very, very creative, and that's where they can now say, okay, we should be able to pay maybe 250, 200,000 minimum wage. And that is the reason I would say that I always say here that we need more Lagos State in Nigeria.
But many people also argue that Lagos State has an advantage. I'm from Lagos. So you can't be more Lagosian than I am. But they say Lagosians are also from Benin. Let's
the conversation for another day.
But Joseph, Lagos has an advantage and has had constant or steady leadership that all face the same. I was reading a book not long ago. I remember when I used to be close, or when an uncle of mine, Balanwoki, right, used to be in charge of Lagos Resilience Team. I know he's in Las Bacas now. And there's a book that talks about the Lagos Resilience Plan. That book is almost a structural plan of what Lagos will look like in the next 20 years or thereabouts. Constant leadership that's focused. From Rivers State now, Wike is called Mr. Project. The man that he said, okay, you work with me, or closely with me, or
continue.
It's you know the case as of now. Adams Oshiomhole and Godwin Obaseki in less than 2 years.
Fight to finish.
So Joseph, beyond Lagos State being a pace setter, the conversation also, there should be some form of political stability.
Because you know there is enough. There's not enough for to meet the greediness of some of us, but it's enough for everyone. If we are not greedy, for everybody to take his own ration. So what I really pray or beg is, just like what I was saying, we need more Lagos State in Nigeria, so that you don't go to Ojota, go to Bega. You see the number of people that are coming to Lagos, and because they just hear that when you are in Lagos, some people feel that maybe just where you just enter Oshodi, you pick some money from Yaba, you pick some money, go to Ojuelegba, you pick some. But when you are not here, you now find out that you need to sit down and use your brain. So there are a lot of opportunity in Lagos that people are coming here, and if you visit other states, JD, you need to visit local government in some part of Nigeria. You'll be in a local government, you won't see a local government secretariat, you won't see up to 5 people.
I served in Osun State, Oshogbo, then sometimes in Nɪɪkire. They didn't have electricity for 4 months. No, they had not had electricity for like 7 months before I got there. It looked like, Joseph, make a note of what's in my mind.
No, those are some of the issues there. So we need, let the governors be able to be creative. Let them be creative and see what they can. Look at Nigeria. That was in the Niger says sometimes. Niger says should be able to feed Africa. Feed the whole Africa.
The governor is doing well now, Governor Bago.
But what is going to be the country? One of the former governors that were there, especially the servant leader.
Even what's the name of the Minister of Agriculture?
I forget that. That's another thing there. That you know that sometimes even today, I can name a lot of ministers under President Olusegun Obasanjo. I can name some ministers under Goodluck Jonathan. I can't even name like a 4 minister under Tinubu, because if Tinubu is making a lot of effort, but the minister supposed to assist him to push all his project. It's as if the minister just stayed there and maybe waiting for the president to push them to do what they can, what they should do.
10.
10. Is it by performance or by through Google?
Yeah, no be Google. Now
Google go or JD. Is it by performance?
By performance, I know the Minister of Interior.
Which other one?
Minister of Interior.
By performance. By performance. That's number 2. By performance.
Economy.
Which
former governor of Osun State.
Okay. That's 3. Number 4.
We have a guest in the studio. We have to talk to our guest soon.
So may they help the president to succeed. May they help the president to succeed.
The reforms are necessary, but you need a team. If you're a good coach and you don't have a team that can put your plans into place, then there's a problem somewhere.
I suppose that if they want to, is it reshuffle or fire some?
They should fire. You can just go back to the state and join the local APC.
Just fire some of them.
Mainland 98.3 FM. The show is Voices from the Top. We speak to everyone, the stakeholders, experts, everywhere. Today we are discussing education. Joseph, before we introduce our guest, education is key, orientation is key. In Jigawa State, it's tragedy. A repeat of what happened in Jigawa State would have happened here a few months ago.
Yeah.
Where the tanker, right in front of our office here, I don't know, something, the car would eat it just...
There's another truck that scratched the tanker and they come, the open become fuel.
Fuel on that tanker started to flow on the road. And we had people riding delivery buses, bikes, people driving, coming down to scoop petrol in the heart of Lagos, Ikorodu Road, precisely. Antony Village. It took classroom away on the other side. The fire service were close by.
We rushed down here.
And that was how that situation was curtailed without any major damage. Joseph, that was a disaster waiting to happen in the city called Lagos. Far away, Jigawa State. 165 people confirmed dead and many more injured. Would I say it's hunger? Should we say it's greed? Or should we say it's lack of education or orientation? Joseph, in a few minutes, what's your thoughts on this? Thoughts with them, condolences to all of those who have lost their life in that ugly incident. But Joseph, it's an avoidable situation.
Yes, I think for me, not that I'm going toward extreme. Was it not the president of South Korea, or is this North Korea, that a bridge collapsed and he ordered that who are the people that are supposed to do that thing? And when they gather all of them, he asked them to execute all of them.
We don't run such a democracy.
You understand? Because see, the issue there is if you are still go to the express now, you see some articulated vehicle without plate number. You see some of the children driving the articulated vehicle. Those guys, some of them maybe not up to 20 years. How did they get driving license? How do they pass police, road safety, and from here down to Jigawa to Abuja and the rest of them?
Road safety, you're going to disturb us for real for a year.
So that's just it. Ask some of these people should be held responsible for some action. By now, would have okay, if the man did not resign, then you should be able to fire the person. That's the only way we can stop all this. If I'm allowed to use all this nonsense. 100 and something people die. Do we have a place that will photocopy people to replace them?
Avoidable. Very much avoidable. Terrible. It is Mainland 98.3 FM. We are the sound of Lagos. The show is Voices from the Top. Our guest will join us right now. Our guest is Dr. Bɪsɪ Esᴜʟᴜᴜᴜ, right? Project lead, Safe School Lagos, a woman who comes with many years of experience. She's been our guest on the show a few times, and it's always a delight to talk to her about education and whatever is within that sector. You can as well listen to us across all platforms, especially on Radio Garden. If you're not on your radio, on your regular radio now, terrestrial radio, listen to us on Radio Garden. Go to your smartphone, the iOS, download the Radio Garden app, and definitely listen to Mainland 98.3 FM. We're also streaming this show live on our Facebook and our YouTube platform. Our guest, Dr. Bɪsɪ Esᴜʟᴜᴜ, formerly known as Akin Alabi, is a project lead, Safe School Lagos, a former special advisor on education, science, and technology for the immediate past government of Oyo State. She's the founder of School Run Academy and a lead resource for Safe School Lagos. She's also an alumna of the University of Lagos, London South Bank University, and King's College London. She's a diligent educator who exhibits great passion for developing sustainable education solutions in Nigeria. She was recognized 22 years ago in the United Kingdom, 10th March 2001 precisely, by the then Prime Minister, Mr. Tony Blair, for excellence in childcare, while she was running 5 child care centers, all founded by her in that country. She was invited to number 10 Downing Street to dine with Tony and his wife, QC Sherry Blair. Bɪsɪ is focused on succession planning for Africa. She's also an alumni of University of Surrey and University of Westminster. She's married with adult children. Amongst them is she's married. Let's leave it. And she has adult children. That's enough. Good evening, ma. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Yes, it's been a minute. I know you've been out of town for a while, and everywhere around us, there's a reality of the situation that we are in. Like I did mention at the start of the show, I saw the governor of Lagos State on a TV station around this time, and one of the questions asked then was, "Oh, why should boarding house?" So there was an increment in fees for boarding house in some model schools. I went to a boarding house in ʟᴏᴜᴜ, so I understand how expensive it is. It's almost free for the day students, but when you are being kept somewhere for 3 months, then you have to fund your day, morning, afternoon, and night. You have to feed. You have to be in a secure environment, and the governor says that we're increasing these fees for the boarding house students because the reality of today means that they have to feed. We have to spend more money for them. You've been around the education sector for more than 30 years. You're a woman you're also a big part of the Lagos State education sector. You have your viable achievements is out there in Oyo State. I know under the administration of the late Governor Abiola Ajimobi. Ma'am, do you think, many would argue, Joseph for example, will say school education should be free? I'm of the opinion that if you want standard education, you have to pay for it sometimes. Do you think it is deserving at this time that the Lagos State government should increase the fee, the hostel fee for students who have parents who barely can put food on their table?
Thank you very much. It's the economic situation, and it's all over the world. The situation is tough, and there's no how that the government will not reflect what is going on else. We're just going to bring the standard down. So if the fees did not go up, then the standard, something has to give at the end of the day. And like you said, it's burden, it's not tuition.
Yes.
So when there's an increase in the fees, we need to look at the specifics in the increase. Is it the tuition, which is meant to be free, or because you see, when you send your child to boarding school, it's for convenience. Those that cannot afford it should not be sending their children to boarding school. They don't have to go to that particular school. They can go to a school that's close by, and they can look after their children themselves from day to day. So basically, I think, and if you look at the increase in comparison to public school, it's peanuts. Because public schools charge millions for boarding, right? And I believe that
private schools, you mean?
I mean private schools. Sorry, in England we call it public school.
Okay.
What we call private school here, we call it public schools.
Okay.
Yes, because it's owned by members of the public. That's the way we call it. Yes, so your children don't need to go to private schools. They can go. I mean, they don't need to go to boarding school. They can go to day school, which is free. So it's a choice.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay. Our conversation centers around maintaining the standard of education in Nigeria in these trying times. Like you say, it's difficult to, like you just pointed out, if you want your kid to get the best, then you have to pay for it. But across board, we have schools, especially universities and secondary schools, with fees being increased. We have schools that were primarily free, getting some form of tuition by the state governors. They are just levying some tuitions on some of these parents now. Oh, PTA, you have to buy books and everything. In these trying times that we are in Nigeria, how do you think the government can maintain the standard of education, as well as also be able to fund education as it should be funded?
To start with, in Nigeria, we've not really had it nicely when it comes to education. We haven't really had the right investment in education. Government needs to increase the investment in education to at least 20% of their entire budget amount, right? So education should be on the front burner. There should be no compromise. Education and health, because it's only the populace that are healthy that can go out and be economically viable. So it's very important that education and health takes more precedence when it comes to budgeting in government's agenda. So I will not support government cutting education, cutting the budget or their
The
funding on education. They should increase it. They should increase it in line with the rising cost of living. They have to. There's no choice. And I'm talking about basic education. Because when we talk of education, we miss it. Sometimes we think education from basic education to tertiary education should be free. I don't believe that. I believe that tertiary education should be paid for anywhere in the world.
Thank you very much. Joseph. Joseph is of a different opinion entirely, though.
Yes, we've been talking about that. Because when they say basic education, and they say education is a right of a child, is the child. A child is not in university. University is for adults. But some people who are not so knowledgeable do not know the distinction between education that is a right of a child and education for adults. And that's the reason why children has to be 18 before they get into university.
Yes,
it's
that's
for
another
adults.
conversation.
Yes, it's for adults, right? Come to think of it, in a university class and environment, you have people who are 35-year-old, you have people who are even 60-year-old, mixing with
16-year-old.
14,
sure.
16. So that means they can be predating, they can be predators on 14-year-old. Nobody babysits what happens in school, in university. So it's immoral, it's unethical for us to have children that are younger than 18-year-old in a university.
But you must agree with us that it's rampant. We have interns here, and these interns are final year, 18-year-old. I'm like, what year did you get into university?
Exactly.
And sometimes they cannot even get things done by themselves. The conversation around town these days, we've had this conversation over time. The current Minister of Education is of the opinion that you must be 18 and above. But the parents feel differently. Why?
Listen, what you said, that the current Minister of Education is of the opinion, is not of the opinion. He just wants to implement the policy. The policy has been there since early 80s, right? When we change to 6334, 6334 simply means you start primary school at age 6. You spend 6 years there.
That's so you're 14,
Then,
15.
Exactly. Then another 3 years, you're 18. So it's an implementation of what is already in existence that people fail to follow. So what the government is basically saying is that we are going to implement this, we will monitor it, and we will ensure it happens. Because if it doesn't happen, we want to be running a depraved environment where we have people who are not mature in secondary school and ultimately, in tertiary, and ultimately becoming graduates. They can't do anything, like you said. They don't have the soft skill. They don't have the maturity that matches their degree. So it's very important. And aside of that, insurance should not even cover a university that have children in there, because it's not for minors. For insurance purposes, you must have an adult, because there are certain things that adults can do that children can't do. And in education, there are safeguarding duties on minors. And that's the reason why they can't be in university, because that means the university will be failing in their safeguarding duties, because the universities are not structured that way, right? So it's very important that we understand these things. And why are parents rushing their children is to save money, to save 2 years of fees, because in Nigeria majority of the children go to
from
private school. Yes, so sometimes they jump them. They want to save 2 years fees. That's all. And the child is not mature, and it's not even good. Some of the children will be impacted because of that for life. I talk about my son every time. My son did WAEC at 13. Why? Because the school were pushing him, because he was very intelligent. And I was shouting, but I was a lone voice. And I told them, after I finished WAEC, I took him to England and put him back in year 10, which is
SS1. Or what's year?
That would be SS1.
Yeah.
I put him back to SS1 because that's where he should be, because he was 14. So I put him back to SS1, and he finished. He didn't like it too, because it's like, oh, I'm bored, oh, I've learned this, oh, I've learned that, oh, they're teaching me everything I know, the blah, 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 blah. You're not doing it because he didn't use the exam. He did the exam, but he didn't use that certificate. He used the certificate that he got at 13 to proceed. But it's important for him to be mature. When he was 13, he was in the same class with 18-year-old. They used to bully him, and they used to call him crybaby. He used to cry because he was a child. But unfortunately for him, he was tall, was very huge. So when you see him, you expect so much from him.
When he speaks,
you now realize that he's only 13. So it's very important that we don't push children. We let them in the UK. Basic education is all about age. They don't even need exam to get promoted to the next class. So because they need to stay in school till they are 18.
It is Mainland 98.3 FM. We are the sound of Lagos. Voices from the top is the show. We have our guest, Dr. Bɪsɪ Esᴜʟᴜ. She's our guest. My name is Kunle Daniel. There's Joseph Alonso right here. We are streaming live on our platform, Facebook and YouTube. It's Mainland 98.3 FM. Joseph, you have a question?
Yeah, the issue of education is very, very key. If you look at the minister approach to that policy, it's still the issue of not understanding education. Because when that policy came up, I studied education in Unilag. I said, this man is just trying to implement the national policy on education, but the challenge is the approach. He would have looked for a way that the stakeholder should own that. We have a policy on national. We have national policy. Have a meeting with all the commissioner for education. Have a meeting with all the SA on education, to all the governor. We have a policy. Nobody will even know that you want to put you won't even mention it. Yes, we have a policy on education. Let us go back, and that policy should be our Bible, our Quran. And when you now open the policy, you now say, oh, the guideline is 6 years, 12 years primary school, 3 years GSS 1 to 3. Nobody will. But man, what can we do that those who are implementing our policy, those who in quote are leaders, should know that they are dealing with human beings who think, analyze what they want to do, and you want to do a noble thing, but your approach will make people to resist it.
So you're thinking about social impact.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you, and I said it too. It doesn't need to come out to say what
only
he
for
said.
party they talk policy.
Honestly, it doesn't need to. All they needed to do was to be strict at the point of entry. That's how they did in the UK. In the UK, it's at the point of entry. They make sure that if you're not 6 years, even if you're born on the 29th of August, you wait 1 year. The cutoff date is 28th of August every year. So, and they will tell you, and everybody who is doing recruitment of children in school, we know that this year you must have been born by the 28th of August 6 years ago to be in primary 1. If not, you can't. If you're born on the 29th, you wait. If you're born in September, you wait. And you will always be the oldest in the class. But if you're born in August, you'll be the youngest in the class. That's the way it goes. Right? And that's what, like you said, it will be at the stakeholder. It will be the stakeholder that will implement it. But in Nigeria, it's because those stakeholders sometimes take bribes. They help people. They collude with people to lie.
Or some of them have schools.
Or some of them have schools.
Yes.
Or they have kids.
They will bring birth certificates that are, forged.
I have friends that have multiple birth certificates.
Exactly.
Because they got into university at ages they shouldn't have got into university. So, like, one of my age, I'll be 16. The other one, I'll be 17. They forget their age sometimes.
So I think that's the reason why he did it that way as well. It's like, okay, let everybody know. But you see, when you want to implement a policy like that, you also will need to give room for those who are stuck in the middle.
Okay, timeline.
Yeah, timeline. There should be timeline. You can't just say, as from
next year.
No, you have to look for way to absorb.
Because you already make a mistake before.
Because it's not the fault of the children that they are being admitted. The university should have known. In Unilag, they don't. Unilag is very strict.
Yeah.
You can't enter Unilag if you're not 18. Right? Except if you lie. So let's always put that. Yeah, because you can see enter.
Human.
Thank you. Because some people will lie. But I even believe that when we were in school, because I left Unilag almost 40 years ago, when we were in school, they don't have that policy. Because my mates entered at 14 and I was 18 when I entered Unilag, and I could see the way they behaved. Now they were so childish, so playful, and some of them spent 3 years extra because they came into school at 14 and they saw freedom.
Oh, so this has been happening for a long time.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Right? I have friends who were 14 when I was 18 at year 1 in Unilag, and they were those that had carryover. They were just failing because they could not manage their own time. There's no mommy, there's no daddy that will harass them to go and do what they needed to do. Because when you're in university, you have to have the discipline to do everything yourself, by yourself. And you also have to have the discipline to know your limits. To know that, okay, even though everybody is going to parties, I have not done my homework, have not done my assignment, let me go and do it. Or I can't cope with that. Or I can't do drugs. They will mix with people doing drugs. They will mix with people doing all sorts. People being groomed for sex and so on and so forth. Things happen. Parents should be happy. And they should see the moral of this thing for the betterment of the society and even for their child. You don't want your child to be groomed. You don't want your child not to be mature before doing what they should be doing. So at the end of the day, the university environment is free. It's porous.
Let's have a conversation around what you do. You are project lead, Safe Schools Lagos.
Yeah.
Special advisor to the former governor
of Oyo State.
Governor of Oyo State, Jᴏɪᴜ. You've been around the educational scene, both in England and in Nigeria, for quite a while. There were things that you could change. These days, let's even have it's two in one question, right? In recent time, we've had a form of security around our education, around our infrastructure, educational infrastructure. We've not had any major kidnappings in the last 2 years or thereabouts. In Lagos State, in Lagos State primarily. Even across the country, a few
skirmishes,
but not as rampant as it used to be. The Dapchi girls, the Chibok girls, where you could move people in that large number. What has the states done differently? And if there are any policy direction that you wish or that you proposed during your time in your state that I think Lagos State government hasn't begun to implement, what would that policy direction be?
Thank you. They've been so lucky in Lagos State, to be quite honest, because Lagos State has been leading the pack in many things, but there's still room for improvement, And if I'm going to talk about education, I will just talk about teacher education, right? The educators are being neglected. They are rusty. they don't get, their welfare is not looked out properly. Teachers are burning out. There's a lot of educators burn out because of the pressure, right? Sometimes you have one teacher having 60 children, especially in the government schools, right? You have 2 teachers having to deal with 120 children. It's too much. They shouldn't have more than 30 in a class. And if they do, then you must have teacher in multiples so that they can at least, yes. But I don't even see the reason why a class should be more than 30. Even if you have 10 teachers there, I don't know why. Right? When we were in school, we had between 23 and 30 when we were in school in those days in one class. So basically what I would like to look at are the soft skills for teachers, right? And the initial, and we need to revisit the initial teacher training. What is in the curriculum? I have a friend whose daughter is in UNILAG right now, reading education. The mother read education during our time, about 40 years ago. And she was complaining to me bitterly that she saw the notes of her daughter. It's exactly the same note that she used
40 years ago.
40 years ago. So basically, we need to look at the curriculum for teachers. We also need to ensure that safety is put in it. They understand safety. Because right now there's a gap in the education sector. The teachers don't know anything about school safety. They don't understand school safety. And it's very key. They need to know how to keep children safe. They need to know the implications of confidentiality or on child protection. They need to understand emergency preparedness, lockdown. When I say lockdown, I'm not talking of lockdown for pandemic. I'm talking of lockdown for insecurity. Because when an invader or somebody that is armed coming to school, the teachers need to understand what needs to be done, and at the same time prepare their children to also need what they need to do, to know what they need to do when such happens. That is one area that I will talk about. And also soft skills. Teachers need to understand the pitch, the pace, and the depth of teaching and learning. They need to understand differentiation in learning. That is how you make sure that, because children don't learn at the same rate, right? And they don't have the same ability. Some children struggle. And doesn't mean they can't learn, but they have what we call dyslexia, right? And children with dyslexia may have difficulty in certain area. It may be hard of hearing, it might be writing, it may be slow in writing, it may be recognizing certain shapes and objects and so on and so forth. But it doesn't mean that they cannot learn, and it doesn't mean that there are no strategy to reach them. So we need to look at such areas in education. We also need to look at using technology in education, the way it should be used, so that we're not left behind. Because everybody now has gone into the world of AI. We are still struggling with digital literacy. Some of our teachers are scared of computer. Some of them don't even want to hear computing. So how do we now produce children who can favorably compete in the digital age? So that is another issue as well. And that's the reason why when we started, I said education should be well funded. Government needs to fund education more. And government also needs to ensure that the policymakers in education are people that know their onions. That is important as well.
Okay, Joseph.
Yeah, on school run or school safety, this is my own personal opinion, that it is difficult for you to achieve anything in Nigeria because we don't appreciate detail. Nigeria is the only country that when you give 4 options for what's the population of country, all the 4 options are correct. If you say
About
200 million,
about 200 million.
you are correct.
Over
If you
180
say
million.
value is because we are not, since 2006, we never sit down and say, do you know what, for any person to actually plan and succeed, you need to have the data, you need to have the demography of the people you need to plan for. How has it been so far for you to achieve what you are trying to do with the kind of data that we have in Nigeria?
Thank you. It's a challenge, to be honest. Data is a challenge, but what we've done is we have agents and evaluators and assessors in different areas, and we run it like a franchisee, whereby we give people their area, the area they live, and we ask them to collect data for us. And the first thing they do is they look around the schools they can see around. They take the data. School buses moving around, we take the data, because the data that we got from government were mainly
Outdated.
they're outdated. We will go to the school, we won't meet them there, they've left, or the school have closed down. So basically getting data is very is problematic in Nigeria, but that's the way we've done it. Now we have our own data, and our data is up to date, but with the advent of social media and all that, most of these schools are online, which makes it easier. Right? Those who are online. But one thing I found out in school is that most of their phone numbers may not be working again. Their email doesn't work.
They don't sack administrators. I mean.
Exactly. You call the number, we just ring, or sometimes it doesn't even ring. The email come bouncing back. So it's really, really tough, you know. And when you talk of data and you say we're 200 million, 180 million, those data are flawed, because I know someone who told me that about 12 years ago, when she was posted to a state, I don't want to mention the state.
Just give us the first data.
B.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are so many states. Exactly. No, it's B.
Okay.
She said the governor camped all of them that were meant to come and do the census, camped them in a lovely hotel, gave them all 250,000 naira at that time, and says, you write the number I give you. So there was no census. It's one of the northern states. There was no census. And he told them, this is how many we are. And that's what they did. So this woman said she became scared, and she said she will never get involved in this thing again. She was a lone voice. She can't do anything. So these are the sort of things that are happening, because the number of people is what they use to get allocation. You understand? So they inflate it. A lot of states inflate the number of students, even the number of out of school children. It may be because of inflation, because they purposely will inflate it so that they can get support
for donations and all
not
these
donation,
NGOs.
even money from the government itself. Right? Because they will get allocation to try and solve that problem based on the size.
The size of the out of school students.
Exactly. You get what I mean? So it may not be correct, it may not be 100%, right? So data in Nigeria is problematic, and that's one area that needs looking at.
It is mainland 98.3 FM. We are the sound of Lagos. The show is called Voices from the Top. There's Kunle Daniel right here. It is 7:47 by my time. There's Joseph Fᴏʟᴏᴏ. Our guest is Mrs. Dr. Bɪsɪ Esᴜʟᴜᴏsᴏ. She project leads Safe Schools Lagos. We're discussing everything: education, problem of data, what to do, policy direction, how to improve education directly. One more question, and Joseph has a question. Oh, first off, Joseph, please. If you go to Lekki, Oshodi, just stay in traffic for a few minutes, and there's a swarm. It's like a swarm of bees, of young kids who are surrounding your cars, and you're wondering what is happening. I would like you to discuss that. And Joseph,
Yeah, the question I want to ask is, in UK, let's do like compare away.
Comparison.
In UK, what do the security agents do? Because I was privileged to be in the midst of something that security need to take care of, and I know the number of security that we actually present in that very place. But when I see the number, that is the figure, in order to get something to service those number of security that are there, it's like 3 times the number of security that were actually in that very place. In UK, the security agency equally find themselves not respecting data. As in, in the paper, you see we have 200 security agency here to take care of some issue. But in reality, there are just 50. But the paper is for budget purpose. And you know, when you do that kind of, if we the civilian are doing that kind of thing, we can give an excuse. But when you see agency of government who's supposed to sanitize the system, who's supposed to ensure that the right thing is done, engage in data manipulation, do you think that country, that system is ready for a change for better?
No, I don't think so. I'm not a security expert, and that will be very difficult for me to say. But in the UK, are you saying that they manipulate figures?
Yeah.
I don't think so. It would be so difficult for them to manipulate.
That's in UK.
In the UK, it would be very difficult for them to manipulate data. It would be difficult. If they said they have 200 police officers, they have 200 police officers. If they have 50 on duty, then that means the others are not on duty for one reason or the other, which may be from being off sick, right? Either for mental health issues, or on holiday, on a break for maternity. Because in the UK we have paternity leave as well. We do have maternity and paternity leave. So if they say they have 200, believe you me, they do have 200 in that location. So they can't manipulate data in the UK the way we manipulate data in this country, because everything is streamlined and data gets fed into a central pool, and even you and I can investigate properly because there's transparency in this, in things like that. But I'm not a security expert, so I can't really talk that much on that.
But let's discuss about our out of school kids and what is around us. How do we manage that situation?
We need to do a lot. When you make school fun, children will come to school. And also we need to educate the parents. You need to understand most of those children you see are children of children themselves. That's the problem, right? And majority of them are from the north. You will see a child carrying a child. 2 days ago,
it will be like your older sister.
Exactly. A child was carrying 2 children. She was holding one and she was carrying one in her arms, and she came to my car by Lekki, and I look at her and I told people in my car, I said, this is a baby. Where do you get this baby you are carrying from? And it's a child. You understand? The problem we have is underage pregnancy, underage marriage, and insecurity. Majority of these children were raped by terrorists, by kidnappers, by Boko Haram.
Predators also.
Predators as well. So when you have children giving birth to children, what do you expect? They don't appreciate education. They don't even know what education is, because they should be in school themselves. And that's the reason why we have a lot of out of school children these days, plus the issue of insecurity. With insecurity, people will rather keep their children at home, and also poverty. Because even in Lagos, we have people that will not let their children go to school. Recently, I have a friend who is into this out of school children activism. And she told me in England that she saw a child under the bridge in Ikeja. And this child, the father, when they took the child to the father and they said they want to help put the child in school. The father said, no, don't. Oh, that's the person who helps me to sell.
Wow.
Exactly. That's the person who helps me in my trade. So I don't even want you to help. They now have to ask the father, okay, so how much do you make in this your trade? So how can we help you to make sure that we give you that, we augment what you make so that this child can go to school? And this is in Lagos. So poverty, ignorance, insecurity, and young mothers. That is the reason why I always say that the priority for a society is the education of girl child. When we educate the girl child, we have better development. Because education is the bedrock of society, and women are the first guardian of children. And there's little you can do if you, as a mother, is ignorant about education, right? But if you know something about education, you can push your children further than yourself. But if you don't, it's a tragedy. So we need to, first of all those children out there needs to be picked up. Government need to be decisive about picking all these children up. Children should not be roaming the street. And whosoever is their parent should also be sanctioned, right? You need to look at them case per case, because you can't just do a one outfit all, because some of them have
different peculiarities.
Yes, and they have serious issues. Some of them have real reason for the children to be where they are, but some don't. Some are just careless parenting, and some of them are just ignorance. So we need to do more to ensure that at least young children, because those children they are carrying, by the time they're 7, they start to finger them, the girls. The boys start to get attracted to kidnapping, to petty theft, and all sorts, pickpocketing, and all sorts of crime. So for us to stop that virtuous circle, government needs to make a decisive decision about children roaming the streets.
We have less than 2 minutes to go. Before we leave, what are you up to these days? What's your? I know you're in Lagos for a short while. What are you doing in the next few weeks?
Thank you. I came to Lagos to lead the conference that we just finished at Sheraton, the Safe School Lagos Cybersecurity Roundtable. That was on the 15th of October at the Balmoral Hall, Ikeja Sheraton. And we just finished that, and we keep on pushing to ensure that our children are safe, online, everywhere. That's what I'm after. I'm after creating an impactful society whereby children and their interests are put first.
Thank you, and may God continue to strengthen you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Colin.
Yes, ma'am. It is Mainland 98.3 FM. The show has come to an end. Joseph, as always, first time we agreed on something, the education. You can't train people in Nigeria. Medicine, pay less than 4 million, and you go and study medicine in the UK and pay $30,000, and you don't want to pay that money in Nigeria. But that's a conversation for another day. You agree, eh?
I do agree.
Joseph Fᴏʟᴏᴜ, we have to go. Your final words to the Goshians.
My final word is Lagos is making a lot of efforts, especially in education. The parents need to key into that, because you educate your child, you educate the world.
Colin Daniel is my name. Joseph Fᴏʟᴜ is on the other side of the radio. I guess Dr. Bɪsɪ Esᴜʟᴜ, project lead, Safe School Lagos. She has had an amazing time with us on the radio, and it's always nice to listen to a widespread experience for more than 30 years talking education. And I'm sure you on the other side have also learned a lot from her. At 8 o'clock, there's Kokorede on the other side of the radio. Have a fantastic rest of the Friday. Friday has just started. I'm going out tonight. Saturday
You're going to a club, as usual.
Have a fantastic rest of the night. Keep your dials on mainland 98.3 FM. We're back again 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock next week Friday.
98.3.
What's up? Baby, let's go.
The sound of Lagos.